Okay, welcome to the video, everybody. I'm going to be going through how to paint this portrait. This is a shorter version of the longer demonstration, and I'm just going to do some voiceovers and give you some tips on how I painted this. Now, I'm mixing up a kind of mixture of red and yellow, so it's really yellow ochre, a little bit of pyrrole red. That helps to get a nice skin tone for this particular reference. And I'm just putting a very light wash over the face, carrying that down to the neck region as well, and just going through and getting the bits of the forehead in just underneath the hair. So just making it as even as possible and mixing a little bit of neutral tint in now. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm just wanting to get in some very subtle shadows over the face while the paper's still wet. This is cold press paper and it works very well when you want to get in these really soft shadows. Normally I use hot press paper, but these days I'm starting to see the merit of switching over to cold press as well, so I do use both. So just putting in little shadows here and there, referring to the reference photo as well. So that's most of the skin done anyway for the face. So I'm going through and adding in a little bit of hair now. This is just a bit of burnt sienna with some raw umber, mixed that together and watered it down a bit so that we've got a tone that's darker than the skin tone, so that when we go over, it's going to cover up that area of the forehead with that red and yellow mix. If you've got cadmium yellow and cadmium red, you can mix those together for the skin tones. And just going down and getting in some of the hair behind the ear. This is really important because when you've got a darker color behind the face, it just makes that skin pop out a little bit more. Redoing the lips a little bit now, adding a little bit more color and defining her nostril as well, that little shadow underneath her nostril, and the areas of the eye, just adding a little bit of grey to that mix and drying it off. A lot of it is just layering over and over again. I've added a bit of colour into the eyes. This is a little bit of sap green mixed with some cobalt blue, and just trying to outline her eyelashes, her eyebrows and her eyelashes. And I always like to go on a bit lighter, so then if I make a mistake it's not going to be too obvious and we can always go over it. Adding in some of the dark areas on her lips as well, and that little shadow underneath her bottom lip. Bit of detail to her eyes now, just the pupils, which I'm getting in with some neutral tint. And I'm adding in the last layer for her hair now, getting in a darker mix of burnt umber and a little bit of neutral tint, because I just want to make her hair pop out a little bit more like in the reference photo. But make sure you're leaving some of that previous layer behind. I'm also using this little round brush to get in individual strands to imply more detail in there. Most of it I use the flat brush for. That's a very versatile brush that you can apply large areas of hair with just a few brush strokes. Going back to that round brush and detailing around her eyes now, just getting in that bit of eyeliner and the eyelashes as well. The technique I'm using here is that I'm pushing down and lifting up at the end to create a thinner line for each eyelash. I'm really not spending too much time on this. And again, just darkening some areas on her face where there are shadows. Just makes everything else pop out a bit more. Bit of detailing on her ear, and just emphasizing that ring around her iris. You can really go on forever doing little bits and pieces like this, and I can even add another layer over her face again to add, even a bit more detail for her skin. And it's up to you if you want to keep on going. I just usually stop at this point. And I'm getting in her shirt now, so just using some neutral tint. I think I might have mixed in a bit of ultramarine in there as well. Mainly it's just neutral tint. Any dark color should do. And I'm going in and adding in the background. So this is a mixture of cerulean blue and a bit of cobalt blue plus some neutral tint in areas. So you notice when I'm going near the face, so just around here, I'm creating more contrast by just making that wash a little bit darker. It's just going to make her face pop out and come forward more. It's a little trick. Same thing here with the ear. I'm just adding in a splash of darker color, but for pretty much everything else I'm just making it fairly light, especially around her hair, because you do want that to come forward. If you're contrasting those lights and darks, you get a very nice effect. Just adding in a little bit more darkness around the bottom as well. Check out these tutorials down the side here. I've got a couple of playlists that will help you get some ideas and improve your watercolors.